Hey everyone, this is Nitro. Now that Mecharashi has been released for roughly 2.5 months, I figured it would be a good time to create a more advanced ST guide. And specifically, this guide will focus on planning for the future, like which mechs to rainbow, and how to get them to rainbow, as well as when to start turning mechs into modules. By mechs, I refer to the S rank mechs, not getting A rank parts and so forth. So let's just get started. Before I begin, I'm going to start off with a few facts in case people are not aware of them. Okay? So first things first is when can you start equipping the S rank modules? So in order to equip S rank modules, it's actually different for the arms and the body and legs. Okay? So it's interesting because arms can equip the S rank module as soon as they are at gold rank 2. Okay? So from gold rank 1 to gold rank 2, they get the connector upgrade. And then at gold rank 3, they get that secondary skill. And then at rainbow, they get the secondary skill at level 2. Okay? So that's for arms. For the torso and legs, the order is slightly reversed. So they start off with connector 1, of course, but at gold 2, they get the secondary skill first. Then at gold 3, they'll get the S rank module slot. And then finally, rainbow will get the secondary skill for 2 levels rather than 1. So rainbow is the same for both, but the order of these two is reversed, the gold 2 and gold 3 order. This matters because effectively what that means is, in order for you to equip all 4 parts with S rank mods, at the bare minimum, you will need the body and legs at gold 3. The arms can be gold 2. Okay. However, one key point to mention, even if you have all of that, so let's say you have 2 parts so you have the body and torso at gold 3, and then the arms at gold 2, your secondary skill, it's not possible to max it out at level 8 yet. Okay. Here's kind of what I mean. So this is my Malphis for Eileen. She has breaker mods equipped on all 4 locations. Okay. But one of her arms is still at gold 2. And as a result of that, it doesn't have the breaker mod skill unlocked yet because the arm gets that at gold 3. As a result, her breaker mod skill is at level 7 and not at level 8. Okay. So basically that kind of means is if you plan to equip the secondary skill as a module, you're going to need it at fully gold 3 to get the full benefits. And the full benefits is pretty significant, right? If it's for example, if it's at level 4, you only get 8% AoE damage increase. But if it's at level 8, you get 18% AoE damage increase. So you get a plus 10% damage increase as well as a secondary effect, right? And the secondary effect for the Malphis is pretty important. Movement -1. Okay. So that's one way you can get it to get that secondary skill maxed out without having rainbowed all the parts. And that, just to be clear, I'm never gonna get my Malphis rainbowed anytime soon because I need another Malphis at gold 3, which basically means I need 2 more dupes of it, right? 2 more dupes plus 2 A rank parts raised to gold 2 in order to raise the second one to gold 3. Okay. Not happening anytime soon. But with the breaker mod equipped, I can temporarily have it function as if it was at rainbow rank, although the damage is decreased. Okay. So that's number 1. Number 2 is you can choose to break down a gold rank ST and equip them as parts. right? And currently in the game, by far the best one to break down is the Dread Talon. And the reason you'll look at breaking down the Dread Talon is, in previous videos, I mentioned how the Dread Talon overall setup is not ideal long term. And combine that with the fact that the Dread Talon effect is amazing, it makes it well worth breaking down. So just for the record, the Dread Talon effect is this. In combat, when hit rate exceeds 70%, each 1% above that converts into a 1% damage bonus, up to 25%. So that effectively means if you have a 95% or higher hit chance, you're getting plus 25% damage. That's the highest damage improvement you can get. Other ones, the second best ones are the Twilight Fang effect, which is only plus 20% from Fang Frame. When equipping 2 weapons of different types in each hand, damage plus 20%. Right? You can get similar bonuses from things like Arcus, right? But Arcus requires shoulders to be equipped with the same weapon type for 20% damage increase. And you can also get a similar effect from actually the XR. Okay. XR effect, Mirror Core, where when you have 2 weapons of the same type, damage plus 20%. But ultimately, all of those are below the 25% of the Dread Talon, which is why the Dread Talon is currently the best mech to break into parts. And then the third option you have is basically there are various skills there's various A rank mods you can get, right? So for example, there's A rank mods that, like the shotgun mod, that at level 4 provides 10% shotgun damage increase. You can get that for all weapon types, really. There's the shotgun mod, there are, what else is there? Pretty much every weapon type has the same thing, Pile Bunker mod, 10% Pile Bunker damage. Knuckle mod, knuckle damage plus 10%. Polearm mod, polearm damage plus 10%, and so on and so forth. This applies to every single weapon type. Machine gun, heavy machine gun, sniper rifle, light rifle, missile launcher, rocket launcher, etc. So the reason I mentioned these is these are the A rank versions of it. There are also S rank versions of every single one of these mods. The S rank version, basically, it provides 2 levels rather than just 1. So instead of going from 3, then 5, then 7, then 10, you get 2 levels. So it goes 5 for the first mod, and then 10 for the second one. The only real drawback is you can only equip 2 of them. So that limits their utility. However, it can create situations, like for example, on my Hong, let's say. Okay, so if I just click on my Hong and look at the current equip parts, I have, let's say, 2 Mirror Core parts. So I broke down 2 XR parts, and there's 2 Mirror Core parts giving plus 8% damage. Theoretically, if I get 2 more, yes, I can go up to 20%. But if maybe you want to keep some of those XR parts, like you want to keep the torso, let's say. So you can maybe choose to equip like the level 2 version of the Pile Bunker mod to get plus 10%. So 10% plus 8% will give you 18%, which is reasonably close to the plus 20% of going full Mirror Core. So there are options like that as well. Okay. Not as much, but fairly close. And the thing with that as well, though, is to get those versions of the gold version of those mods, there's only a few ways. Like, for example, you could pay for them for 800 Erastium, if they show up in the module trading company. I suspect they're going to show up in the arena shop and border FTZ shop eventually. Like, for example, right now we have power mod level 2. There are some of these right here. Dodge mod, crit rate mod, accuracy mod. We just don't have the damage increasing ones here yet. Okay. And of course, border FTZ has similar things, but right now border FTZ is focused on the mods you use for tanks, the damage reduction or armor increasing or healing ones. So this may very well change, and then in that case, you may choose to get those mods accordingly from those shops. Alright, so we've covered basically, and then, oh yeah, lastly, of course, is the combo mods that I mentioned, the secondary skill mods, which are also picked up from Arena Shop and Border FGC. For example, I bought all the breaker mods to throw onto my Eileen, right? So that I could max out that skill potentially. So with these mods mentioned, and how I mentioned you need at least torso and legs at gold 3, and I mentioned the best mod to break down. So when should you break down the mods, right? And quite simply, it's based on how many mechs that you have built up. On the whole, in the current game, you really need at least 9 mechs for Arena. Right? 9 mechs built for Arena can allow you to kind of consistently max out your Arena points and be in the top 3 of the rankings per week. So that's kind of the limitation, right? If you can, and in terms of the 9 mech breakdown, you probably want 3 light STs built. Okay, so for example, I have Frida, Sylvie, and Hong. Okay, for my 3 light STs. And then there's going to be, in terms of medium mechs, that's probably the one that's going to be the most, because medium mechs consist of tactical mechs, healer mechs, and sniper mechs. Right? So you're probably going to want like 5 of them, if not even 6. And then finally, heavy mechs, probably just 1 build. Okay. In my case, it's a calm. So medium mechs for me would be like the Malphus on Eileen, a Blazer, which was free, right? The new Pascal that we're currently getting, right? There's going to be this one's a mishmash on 7. There's XR parts that I haven't broken down yet. There's a second Blazer arm that I've gotten from Dispatch. There's a blue bird's leg, and that one actually came from Border Conflict, where the random parts and S-grade mods gave me a random S-grade part. And then yeah, some other mechs includes the Aurora that I drew for, the Archist that was free. Okay. So in total, how many mechs do I have built? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mechs in total. So, and that's also why I started breaking down the Dread Talon as a side note. So, in terms of breaking it down, if it's a mech you plan to break down, I would say the only mechs you should break down is either at gold 1 or gold 2. Okay? You do not want to break down gold 3 or rainbow. Okay? So the reason is simple. Gold 1 mechs provides 1 module directly. Gold 2 provides 2 modules. Okay? The issue basically crops up where gold 3 also provides 2 modules and gold 4 provides 4 modules from what I know. This is an issue because remember, this relates to upgrading the parts. So if I want to upgrade a part from, let's say, gold 1 to gold 2, all you need is that dupe of it. Or if you don't have a dupe, you need the upgrade kit. Right? Either the upgrade kit of that mech or a common upgrade kit. So basically, you have 2 parts, you get 2 modules. That makes sense, right? But to raise from gold 2 to gold 3, you actually need to use parts of the same quality, which is of the same class, right? So yes, you could potentially theoretically you could feed an actual S-rank part to upgrade another S-rank part, but you're never going to do that. Instead, the feeding material should be A-rank parts upgraded. So I do have 1 A-rank part upgraded as the example, right? You can use, like, let's say, a Roadrunner part, which Roadrunner began at purple 1, and then it caps out at gold 2. So you can use this part to upgrade the other parts, right? Once it's been reduced to level 1. Okay. So all this is to say though, all your A-rank mechs will eventually become fodder for you to upgrade your S-rank mechs into gold 3 or into rainbow. So in terms of how to get them to rainbow, just basically a lot of the planning will involve a combination of dispatch and drawing via shipping. And if you're a low spender like I am, what you're getting from the Battle Pass or Explorer's Quest. Okay. So, this is what you need to keep in mind. You basically need 4 copies of a mech to rainbow it. And there are 2 guaranteed copies from dispatch missions. Right? It may take a while, but every time you hit 3,900 points, you will get a part plus the upgrade kit. And you can go through this cycle 4 times to get 4 parts plus 4 upgrade kits, which is effectively 2 mechs. Then you need to draw for 2 more copies. Okay. The big issue with dispatch though is the time, the sheer amount of time involved, because every day you can only get 150 points in one, 100 points in a second one, and then 75 points in the third. Given that each cycle takes 3,900 points, well, 3,900 divided by 150 means 26 days, right? 3,900 divided by 100 means 39 days. And then 3,900 divided by 75 means 52 days, right? And that's just for 2 parts. In order to get the full mech, which is 4 parts, you need to multiply that by 4. So 26 days times 4 is 104 days. That's roughly 3.5 months to get the 2 mechs for the fastest one. That's okay, but 39 days times 4 is 156 days. 156 days is basically a little over 5 months. And then 52 days times 75 is 208 days. That's very, very close to 7 months. All right. So that's a huge limitation on how many mechs you can rainbow, right? And how many mechs parts you can kind of get, right? There's only 3 you can focus on pretty consistently, right? And so you're limited to 3 at a time, which is rough. So that's one thing you really need to consider. Okay. The other thing to kind of consider is most of our current mechs will become obsolete. Like, this is how long games makes money, right? By having you draw for mechs and pilots. And so there's going to be a power creep. So the mechs we use right now, in 7 months we get them rainbowed, but then they're progressively replaced by better mechs. So that's the other thing to kind of keep in mind. So it still makes sense to get them to rainbow, right? Having a rainbow mech is superior, but some of those secondary skills and so on are far, far better in upcoming mechs in the future. Okay. So there's only eventually all of our current top tier mechs will become backup mechs that you have equipped on other characters like Winston and Seven and so on. The characters who are not your primary party. Worth keeping that in mind. Now, and so yeah, the other thing I was going to mention is because of the sheer timing involved in getting mechs from the dispatch missions, and the limited number and randomness of the ones that you get from, let's say, border conflict, most of the time you're getting more dupes from shipping, right? As well as Battle Pass. And that transitions into the tools that were created by fellow YouTuber Michi, because he has an upcoming banners guide as well as his kind of Google Wikipedia, So I'm just going to provide the links to both in the video description and talk a bit about why they're so useful. On screen is Michi's banners and battle pass guide. And if you look at this closely, we're currently in between 1.3 and 1.4 because we just got Lorna and Uglo. And then his pull recommendations is pretty straightforward. Green means pulls 1 pilot and mech. Yellow means max it out, right? So it's recommended that we get Kelly with the Rex. And then after that, it's pretty much save resources until you max out Asuka and her mech, which is a light mech, the DO2. Now, there are some mechs here recommended for PvP and mechs and pilots, I believe. Mostly pilots though. So, but that adds a lot of basically cost, right? If you want a PvP, there's a lot more pilots you have to draw for, which can make things difficult, shall we say, in terms of if you want to be free to play. In any case though, other than that, in the bottom section is the battle pass. And the battle pass really affects a lot of the planning in terms of how you would get rainbow mechs. Here's kind of what I mean, right? These battle passes pretty much guarantees you a pilot and a mech if you're willing to pay for it. And we just talked about the roughness, of the timing from dispatch. So you could get copies of mechs to make it viable to focus on them for dispatch purposes. Like, for example, we're currently on the first battle pass where we can get a Glacia and a Hong or Gumisei, right? I personally went for a copy of Gumisei with the Glacia rather than his recommendation. Okay, but on the second one, there's going to be William and Kong. Right? I'm currently farming up Kong in the dispatch with the 75 point section. So that's going to take a very, very long time for me to get 4 parts of a Kong. But if I draw for a Kong from this battle pass, that could cut the time in half, right? 52 days per 2 parts, right? If I have to get 4 less parts, that can save me 104 days of dispatch farming. So that's kind of like the example that I would consider. I also didn't draw for a William during his banner, so being able to pick up a free copy of William will make my life easier. Okay. The next battle pass has Melissa with Aurora or Catherine with her Hela. So Hela sucks. I already have 3 light STs. Definitely don't need it. But the Melissa option with the Aurora is an interesting one, because the Aurora especially, I drew for a copy of an Aurora. So if I get this one, I instantly have an Aurora that's at gold 2, which is very easy to upgrade to gold 3 as well, if I so choose. The main thing is, your healers are not really damage dealers. They just need survivability and maybe some support attacks. So using an Aurora is a solid option. And certainly a gold 2, potentially gold 3 Aurora could offer me some more versatility than maybe using like a gold 1 Aglow, which is the current banner one. Because I'm looking around, there's no real way to get Aglow unless you draw for it, unless you get it all the way in a very, very far away battle pass. And by that point, it's recommended to get the Mithril on that one instead. So it just doesn't seem to make sense to draw for the Aglow at all. All right. So what else is there? Well, the next one has, for example, Frida. So getting a dupe of Frida is always well worth it. It also has Blue Bird, which is recommended. I'm personally going to skip the Blue Bird. I already have enough medium mechs, medium STs, I feel. So the Blue Bird can be skipped, right? But on the banner after that offers an interesting option. Sorry, not banner, battle pass after that. That battle pass has Marcus with his Doppelmech or Naomi with her Arcus. So this one's an interesting option because the Arcus may well be worth getting, right? We got a free copy of Arcus, but that Arcus then is capped at gold 1. Getting this one could get it to gold 2. And then gold 2 is very easy to upgrade to gold 3. Right? Obviously, that depends on the sheer number of parts that you have. Right? Your parts at that point may be concentrated into upgrading Asuka, right? And her light mech to rainbow. But at the same time, having the option of getting a gold 3 Arcus And if you choose to farm the Arcus in the dispatch, you could have a Rainbow Arcus potentially, just off of this. Right? But that is dependent on a lot of factors, right? For example, do you have like a off-banner Arcus, stuff like that can reduce the amount of time you draw. So, but well worth considering there. The next battle pass with Rosa is an interesting one to consider. Like, is Rosa worth getting? Do you need her? Or by that point, do you already have enough pilots to use so that you don't need Rosa? It's an interesting one. I'm not sure Rosa is necessary, personally speaking, but I could be wrong. Right? So that's the battle pass that I may skip entirely. And then the next one with Sylvie and her Dread Talon, I just have a feeling that Dread Talon, you're drawing for it not because you want to build a Dread Talon, but because you want to turn it into module parts. I previously mentioned how plus 25% damage is huge. So having another mech get a plus 25% damage increase could be well worth it. Right? And so basically this allows you to plan a lot for the future. The only unfortunate thing is it doesn't cover every single banner, right? Just more of the new banners, the upcoming new heroes and so on. But nonetheless, I definitely recommend using this tool. And finally is the Michi Wiki, which even right now has around 50 viewers using this tool. So this wiki is basically from his experience playing the Chinese server and has all sorts of information about the upcoming items in Mecharashi. For example, it shows that there's going to be rainbow backpacks that make use of the rank 2 backpacks that we currently have access to. So it shows like how do you make those rainbow weapons and rainbow backpacks, for example. Next, it has, of course, some of the guides to current pilots, like what kind of points you should equip on them, how many bionics you should use on each hero, and so on and so forth. But it also provides guides to the future pilots and future mechs. It's worth mentioning because you see that pretty much all the current mechs are obsolete compared to the future releases, which makes sense, right? I previously mentioned how this is ultimately a gacha game, and Slong Games makes money from people drawing for new stuff. If they give us so many draws every month, like 200, you have to draw for the newer stuff in order to kind of stay relevant, or else you get the power creep will affect you too heavily. So that is to say, you can see our current mechs are all roughly at tier 1.5 that we're building, and they do get replaced in the future by other options. And I believe it is the same thing for pilots as well, right? Frida is actually lower, right, on tier 1 and so on, right? And you can see that most of the Lorna and Melissa are top tier still. They are like the healers that we'll probably use forever, but most damage dealers will get replaced, and so we have to keep that in consideration. And I think that pretty much sums it up. Make use of this tool for your future planning, and it's all about kind of just conserving resources so you can draw for what you need in the future. Okay. So thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you found this video useful. And on that note, Nitro out.